All right, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we're going to start our nightly report tonight for April 11th, 2022, with the ongoing events in Ukraine. Tonight's two main breaking stories, the two main headlines tonight are one, Russian troops continuing to amass in the east of Ukraine for a renewed offensive. Um, in the Donbass. We've been speaking about this for quite some time now, over the past week, as I've sporadically got on for micro reports. We've talked about how they're moving those forces from the north, out of Belarus, up by Kiev. In that area, they're moving all those forces now. They're shuffling them eastward to the Donbass in order to renew an offensive there. Another big story this evening that was just breaking a short while ago is this possibility of a chemical attack in Mariupol. We're going to go in depth on that situation here shortly. Again, there is really no concrete information yet. We're still waiting to get that concrete information coming in from Mariupol, but it does look like there's a possibility that a chemical attack did occur there. So again, we're going to have to wait to get some more concrete information, but we're going to go into depth into all the details in and around that. Another breaking story this evening. Russia accuses Nato of Psyops in Ukraine. Again, we'll kind of go into the details around that. The Russia's Ministry of Defense had claimed that members of NATO have deployed specialists to Ukraine, what they call specialists, in a psychological influence operation. Again, we'll go into a little bit more of the specifics on that later this evening. Again, so those are the three main headlines tonight. You got the Russian troops amassing in the east. All right, you have these accusations of psyops by Russia, and then you have the possibility of these chemical attacks in Mariupol. Okay, all are extremely big headlines, one after the other. All right, over the course of the day. One Busy Mama, thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you for subscribing this evening. Again, glad to have you in the chat here. So I think first what I want to do is I want to jump into, because everybody's asking about it and everybody wants to know about this possibility of a chemical attack in Mariupol. The other main two headlines I had tonight were the Russian troops amassing in the east. That's like the big kind of headliner, and then the accusations by Russia of NATO, about these psyops. So, but all of that got thrown under the rug as soon as these stories broke of this possibility of chemical attacks in Mariupol. Okay, by far that takes the cake. Okay, as Hugo says in the chat, he asks, a chemical attack in Mariupol, so more war crimes tacked to the long list of Russian forces. It would be much more than just another war crime. Okay, if it's official that a chemical attack has occurred in a city as large as Mariupol, in the current situation, given that that Mariupol is surrounded by Russian forces, okay, and has been heavily bombarded over the past few weeks, the amount of civilian casualties we've seen in Mariupol is immense, okay, and so for this to be tacked onto that is going to be an absolute game changer when it comes to the dynamic here on the ground in Ukraine. So, British Foreign Secretary Liz Truss says her government is working urgently to verify details of an alleged chemical weapons attack on residents of the besieged Ukrainian city of Mariupol. Again, they haven't got that concrete information yet, but right now, as we're speaking, as we're coming on the air tonight, they are currently looking to get any and all information on that situation confirmed as quickly as possible. It's imperative that they do so. Thomas, thank you so much for tuning back in. Glad to see you here. Again, continuing on with that, a Pentagon spokesperson says the reports were not confirmed, but they reflect U.S. concerns about Russia's potential to use a variety of riot control agents, including tear gas mixed with chemical agents in Ukraine. So, again, there's speculation that it could be not, something like like mustard gas or Novichok or something like that. It could be something less deadly, a less lethal chemical agent that was used. Something like, yeah, a pepper agent, something like, tear gas, of course, etc. So again, we have to wait to get more concrete information on this situation that is unfolding. Again, this is a breaking story. If Russia were to be found to have used chemical weapons in the strategic holdout city of Mariupol, it would represent a major escalation of the conflict and present a direct challenge to NATO members. So again, it would, as I said, it would be a game changer when it comes to like the dynamic on the ground here in Ukraine. It would be a very big deal. Okay. So again, as we come on the air over the past hour, there's been a number of air raid alert sirens across Ukraine. We expect now that we're coming onto the 4 o'clock hour here in Ukraine that we are going to see more of those alerts. So as I'm bringing you these reports tonight, we're going to We're going to try to keep up as best as we can with those alerts as they come in. I'll kind of try to stop. I'll try to stop to kind of bring you guys those as they come in. Really quickly, I'm trying to get something up on the screen here so I can just show you a few things. Stand by for that here. There we go. Okay. So here I have our live UA map up here. I just kind of put it up over the Kiev ski cam here. You can see these alerts that are streaming in. This has been a repeating pattern I've seen over the past 2 weeks here. Every night at around 4 a.m., anywhere from around 2 to 4 a.m., we start getting all of these air raid alert sirens. And usually by morning, usually about 6 a.m., the map is covered with them, as has been the case the past few nights. So as I'm giving these reports tonight, guys, which is a 2-hour block now, it started at 9 p.m., we're about 7 minutes into it. So over those 2 hours, I want us to kind of pay attention. We're going to pay attention to the map here and just look at how things escalate into the morning hours to see if it kind of continues with that pattern or not. So far it is. So far over the past few hours here, we've had quite a few air raid sirens that are coming in. I'm going to go through and we'll go through all of the live UA map updates here individually. But first, what I'm going to do is continue going through the main headliners there. And we'll kind of go into some of detail on some of those headlines coming out of Ukraine today. But really quickly, 4 hours ago, I just noticed here there's a report from 4 hours ago. 3 wounded after exposure to chemical substance dropped from drone in Mariupol, all in mild conditions. So again, that was from 4 hours ago. We're going to have to wait to get more information. I would believe that these numbers are probably going to change. However, we're going to have to wait to see. Sniper, thank you very much for cheering. Again, thank you to everybody that is tuning in this evening. I don't think I transitioned here. Let me transition. Sorry, guys. I'm going to take that out of studio mode so I don't have that happen again. Okay, so here is our map here. And here is the alerts. So he said Kharkiv has just been hit 3 minutes ago. I actually do not have any updates here. I'll refresh our map. Yeah, I don't have any fresh updates from a few minutes ago. But if it was hit, those updates will come in on the map any moment now. Anyway, what I was speaking of is these little buoys here. These are our alerts on live UA map. And that pattern I was speaking of, over the next 2 hours while we're giving these reports, I guarantee you we're going to see more air raid alerts come in, and we're going to see them pop up most likely all over the country. The other morning, it was literally the entire country from west to east was blanketed in air raid alerts from Lviv all the way over to Kharkiv. So very active at this time in the morning. Fancy Hat says soft flashes on cam 1. Roger that. So that's our ski cam here in the background. For now, I'll bring this down. In fact, actually, we can. Actually, really quickly, right here, 4 hours ago, that was sorry, the 3 wounded after exposure to the chemical attack, right there on the on that map there. So I just wanted to show you guys that. So that is the reporting that we have on. We have 2 actual reports that came on live UA map. One says the Azov regiment says Russian troops used some kind of chemical dropped from a drone. Those impacted have respiratory failure, vestibulo Asiatic syndrome. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but then again, we had that report from 4 hours ago saying 3 wounded after exposure to a chemical substance drop from drone in Mariupol. But that went on to say that they were all in mild conditions. So we have some conflicting reports coming out, and again, we're going to stay with that story as it develops over the evening. I guarantee you. Pocket Frog, yes. Next time I bring up the map when we go into Live UA and all that, I'm going to bring up the full screen version of the map so that we can go into that. I was just really quickly there showing you guys that stuff. Somebody said 3 bangs 5 minutes ago on the ski cam. Yeah, Fancy had just alerted me a second ago to a few explosions on our ski cam. So we're going to keep an eye on that. Fallen Rays, thank you so much for tuning into the chat this evening. Again, thank you for all the support in the moderating department. He asks, do you know much about the anti-ship systems the Ukrainian forces were getting from the United Kingdom? Voice chat was speculating a shipment came in with Boris Johnson when he visited Kiev. I actually had not heard any information on that. Nothing confirmed, at least. However, I have heard reports of them sending the anti-ship systems. However, I don't have any concrete information, and anything other would be speculation at this time. Possibly going forward, I'll have some more concrete information on that. I'll look into that and see if we can track anything down. Rocketman asks, non-lethal chemicals used? Yeah, see, we're still unsure because we have some conflicting reports. We have some reports saying that it was mild, as Fancy Hat puts it in the chat, saying, mild just means they aren't in immediate danger of dying. We have some other reports saying that it was a little bit more serious. They are having some respiratory distress syndrome occurring, and so, again, we have to keep with that, and we still don't know the exact numbers of how many have been affected. Some reports said 5, some reports have said as little as 3, and so again, we're gonna have to wait and see as that story kind of develops over the evening. ID429 says, I remember the chemical warfare training in the 70s. Can only imagine what they have now. Yes. Even for crowd dispersal agents, there's a lot of different things that have come onto the market. So earlier, Defense Department Press Secretary John Kirby, he had mentioned that the Pentagon, again, was closely monitoring the reports of this possible chemical weapons attack in Mariupol. And again, I just want to reiterate, if Russia was found to have chemical weapons in Mariupol, if they had used them in the city, given that it's such a densely populated area, and given that the events that have unfolded in the city already over the past few weeks, this is going to present a very clear challenge for NATO here when it comes into how they're going to react to this. I mean, a lot of people don't. Chemical weapons, I think, in my opinion, is only one step away from the use of like a small yield nuclear weapon. The chemical weapons, have devastating consequences, as we've seen in places like Syria, and I believe if Russia were to use them in Europe, it would be, as I said earlier, a massive game changer when it comes to the dynamic and how this war is being waged on the ground in Ukraine. Again, thank you to everybody that's tuning in tonight here. Sorry, I'm trying to get. So people said the clock had froze again. I got to keep that in. I got to remember to keep that in the foreground there. Okay. So here's some of the again, going forward with the major headlines today. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky has warned that thousands of Russian troops are amassing in the east, as I mentioned earlier. There's now evidence coming in that they are not only shuffling around the troops, but they're shuffling around the logistics supplies and hardware, things like hospitals, things like their electronic warfare equipment, things like their supply chain, fuel, food, etc. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail when we look into the force movements on the map and kind of the placement of these Russian troops in the map later. And when they were encircling Kiev a few weeks ago, when they were encircling Kiev and I was doing those reports, I was talking a lot. We had talked a lot about how they were having issues getting fuel. They hadn't prepared when they made that lightning advance into Kiev. They did so very ill prepared. Okay, they didn't bring enough fuel. They didn't bring enough food. They didn't bring enough supplies, and that was one of the biggest points of failure for the Russians when they moved in is their lack of supply chain, and they're not going to necessarily have that issue as much in the east now. Okay, and so it's going to be very different fighting in the east in two ways. First of all, the supply chains are going to be much more rugged for the Russians. At least we'll see. Of course, we were surprised with this first advance into Kiev, so failing. So we're probably again going to. I'm hoping that we're going to be surprised this time, and that the Russians are going to again falter as they try to make this renewed offensive in the east. I'm going to get more into detail in that later, and kind of the logistics of how they're going to make those moves in the east. But really, just the kind of the point being now is that they are moving the things into place. The pieces on the chessboard are being moved into place for them to start this renewed offensive. The leadership, talking about that general. That the Russian general that is now in charge of those Russian forces in the east, is reconsolidating his forces there. And I believe so. They're going for kind of a more long-term focused grind westward, from east to west. As to how far they're going to push is anybody's guess. Again, I'm going to go into more details as to kind of like their movements and how their strategy is going to play out, or could play out moving forward. And so, again, we're going to do that later on the map. I'll bring that up full screen so we can kind of look into some of that strategy there and how they're going to be moving those troops and how they're going to be looking to kind of, achieve those objectives in the east there in the Donbass. So, Ukrainian officials earlier today, this was reported, say at least 1,200 civilians have been killed in the Kiev area since the war has began. So that includes all of the suburbs. That's not just the city, in the city center. We're talking all the suburbs, places like Bucha, Irpin, etc. Recovery efforts continue in the suburbs, cities and towns outside the capital. Bodies have been found in basements and manholes, and in the streets and back alleys. There's bodies being found, beneath the rubble of destroyed buildings and homes as well. So it's a very taxing situation there in and around Kiev as they start to uncover all of the civilian casualties which have occurred there, unfortunately, over the past month or more since this war has been going. Austria's Chancellor Karl Nehammer met in Moscow with Russia's President Vladimir Putin in the first face-to-face exchange between Putin and a Western leader since Russia invaded Ukraine. As a non-aligned European country, Austria has traditionally played a unique role between NATO member states and Russia. This is not a friendly visit, said Nehammer in a statement, which was an interesting development. He wanted to be clear on that. He said, "My most important message to Putin," and I quote, "was that this war must finally end because in a war there are only losers on both sides." The Kremlin decided not to comment on that. There was no return comment by the Kremlin on that this evening. So some other reporting from earlier this morning: Russia's war could shrink the Ukrainian economy by nearly 45%. And so this is one point I've been trying to make to people as I discuss like this lightning advance that occurred in Kiev, right? Okay, this advance that happened around Kiev, all the destruction, all the collateral damage that has happened around Kiev. All right, and just by simply waging this war, okay, if Putin's aim here was to simply render the Ukrainian economy a failed state, okay, so to speak, all right, it wouldn't even need to take Kyiv, all right? It's already doing it now. 45%, a contraction of the Ukrainian economy by 45%, and arguably, which will grow significantly, okay, is enough damage within itself. All right, so just to put that into perspective, and then so again, on the flip side of that, they're also saying sanctions imposed on Russia are now expected to cut its output by nearly 11.2%. So that is, I mean, for any economy, anything over 10, that's a massive, that's a big deal. That's a massive hit to the economy. And definitely the Russians are going to be feeling that. Not only the Russian people, but the Russian government will be feeling that for some time. 45%, however, that's absolutely economic decimation. Okay, 45% contraction. It'll take Ukraine years and years to recover from that, as it will Russia for just that simple 11.2%. Again, those numbers are expected to grow. Emerging and developing countries in this region already had been hit hard by the COVID-19 pandemic, of course, and so this only adds to that. Okay, and not to mention there's a slew of other countries around. So everybody like Belarus, Poland, all of these countries are taking an economic hit in some way to this war, as it's going to drastically reduce things like tourism to these places, and as these refugees move in, that causes all sorts of issues they have to take care of as well, and as they have to increase things like military spending, and all of these things are really going to snowball, and you're going to see effects on all European economies, one would argue, as you're seeing effects here in the West as well, or all the way over here in the United States. We're seeing effects on our economy already as well, directly from this war. Right in the beginning, we saw the shift in gas prices, amongst other things. So going ahead here. Russia's defense ministry has accused the U.S. of aiding Ukraine in what Russia said were efforts to fake atrocities. Again, touching back on the earlier report that I had for you this evening of Russia accusing NATO of Psyops in Ukraine. Psyops in the country, so they're basically conducting psychological operations. It's the same. They're blaming the United States government and NATO for doing the same thing that we're blaming them of doing. We blame the Russians of faking these mass casualty events. These videos of these mass casualties you see, right down to independent YouTubers like Patrick Lancaster and his cohorts. State media as well. You see these images on, and so the Russians are now flipping, trying to turn the tide and trying to reissue the blame onto NATO forces as well. So going again, so the big headline on that is saying that they're accusing NATO of efforts to fake atrocities against civilians and to place the blame on Russian forces. Faced with a growing body of evidence that Russian forces carried out summary executions of Ukrainian civilians near Kiev and other cities, it's now like the Russians are they're continuing to dismiss the atrocities as fakes or provocations, and this is kind of their way to deflect onto they're basically saying it's a NATO psyop. That's how they're trying to explain this away. In Monday's statement, the ministry said the United States, which has many years of experience in organizing provocations with human victims, continues its campaign to create and promote false evidence. Now, again, this is a very complicated situation because, I want to reiterate here because there is false news, there is propaganda happening on both sides, not just the Russian side. There is false news happening on the Ukrainian side. I would say, that it's not equal, though. It's very much not equal. The Russians have had, I would say, being on the offensive side of things, and this is not coming from a position of bias, this is just simply coming from a position of logic, is that they're on the offensive, okay? I mean, they're invading Ukraine, all right? And so it's the same for when it comes to their information war and their narrative. Okay, their propaganda tactics are also on the offensive. Okay, so they have a kind of a majority when it comes to the amount of false flag, the amount of false information narrative that is being constructed here. I would say Russia definitely takes the cake in that regard. Now, keep in mind that there is, a fair share of propaganda and false information happening on both sides of the spectrum, as is the norm in wartime. Okay, the same thing happened in World War II. The same thing happened in World War I. Propaganda, false information is as much of a tool as howitzer artillery, as ballistic missile systems, etc. Yes, lots of fake news. There's fake news on all sides of the spectrum that we have to be aware of at all times. It's very important. Again, another report from earlier. A Russian woman who interrupted a live news broadcast to protest Russia's invasion of Ukraine has been hired as a freelance reporter by Germany's Welt Media Group. There's been a lot. There's been a mix of, you see journalists rising up, Russian journalists or Russian people rising up to speak out against the Kremlin. In some cases, they're being arrested by the Russian government, prosecuted, in some cases, and on the other side of the spectrum, you have some Russians now speaking up outside the country, and even doing a fair bit of reporting on kind of what the Russian perspective is here, and what the people inside the country are being told, and what the people inside the country are being made and being told to think. So again, I just want to stop really quick to let everybody know that's tuning in tonight. Again, thank you guys for tuning in. If you could really quickly hit the like button. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. Best way to support the channel. It's also the best way to get the notifications. And if you're following along on Twitch, you guys on Twitch are awesome. You're my favorite crowd. Thank you guys so much. And hit that follow button if you haven't already. It's the best way to know when the streams go live. Okay, so switching over here again. For those just tuning in, the main story tonight was those chemical weapons attacks in Mariupol. I know I saw a few people in chat asking about that just now. Again, we're still waiting to get more concrete information on that situation as it rolls in. Okay, so switching gears here, I think what we're going to do now is we're going to turn over onto live UA map, and I'll go in depth as to looking at all the kind of the reports that we've had coming in over the past 24 hours or so. So a little bit of further stories there actually that I guess are worth noting. Um, uh, there was the strikes in Cherniv on that hospital there. A short time ago. There's some in-depth analysis on that I might go into later this evening. And then, of course, later after we go into the live UA map stuff, I'm also going to kind of go in depth on what Russia's plan B is kind of going to look like here strategy-wise, so stay tuned for that as well. Roger Rand says, I heard they attacked Russian soil with helicopters. Hard to really escalate any farther. They have. There has been a few attacks on Russian soil. I haven't heard anything about the helicopter attack, though. At least anything in the immediate, like the past 24 hours or so. Okay, so now I'm going to switch over to live UA map here. We're going to get, we're going to go over to our main screen here. Okay. So now we're going to go through about the past 24 hours of material here or so, and then after I'm done with that is when we'll switch over to kind of looking at the map. I'm also going to I have a few other map sources which we're going to bring up as well. In fact, I'm going to get those up on screen now so that if we need to flick through them, we will be able to do so. So yeah, like we have our Center for Information Resilience map. I'll get that one up as well. That one will also be fairly useful. No, not that. We need to copy this instead. Yeah, it's the map hub one. And I'll also put no, that's not it. Why is it not Oh, here we go. I see. Okay, I was copying from the other clipboard. Okay, so we need the Center for Information Resilience map, which is this one. Okay, that's map. That's the one on Map Hub. I'm also... Can I just open it up like this? Yes, I can. Cool. All right, cool. This is our ship radar. I'll open up flight radar and ADS-B on there. Let me get my firms map up as well. Oh, whoops, I opened up too many firms maps. Sorry about that. Here's our marine radar. Air pollution. Another marine traffic one. Actually, I think we might already have that one up. Yeah, I think we already have that one up. Do we? No, we don't. We don't have that one up. Okay, so that's a pretty good one. But I do have that other one up. Yeah, this one. So I'll close out of that one. Okay, so we have that. Let's get that honed in on the Black Sea here. Come on now. All right. Okay, we got our map hub here open as well. And I want to get that kind of scrolled into Mariupol. You can see there's been a lot of reports coming out of Mariupol there. All right, so let's go back here. I'm gonna try to go back farther even. We're gonna try to go back to about the 24-hour mark, but it won't let me. I don't think it's gonna let me. Scott Grable says, good to see you back on regular schedule, Nemico. Thank you so much for tuning back in, Scott Grable. Glad to have you here. Okay, here, I got it to go back. All right. We'll go back already all the way to here. So these are alerts from yesterday. I'll go back to the last report from about 24 hours ago. As you can see, about 24 hours ago, there was nothing but alerts. Look at all these alerts here. Donetsk, Sumaska, Dnipro, Zaporizhia, Kharkiv, Poltavska, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, Donetsk, Kharkiv, all the way up to 19 hours out. All right, so here, starting at 19 hours ago, Russian troops remotely deployed anti-personnel mines in residential district in Kharkiv. Rescuers are asking citizens not to approach them. That's what they look like there. There's an image of them. Again, that was in Kharkiv there, in the north of the country. Let me turn right back over here to my live chat, get my live chat open so I can... Alrighty. 19 hours ago, again, red alert aerial threat sirens. That was in Liman there. That's towards the east. That's a little bit further towards the east. 19 hours ago, Ukrainian military destroyed Russian army warehouse near Novidir in Luhansk region. Again, there's a picture of that there, and I think I have a video for you of that as well. I have to open that up here. There's that video and audio here of that that strike there. Very heavy fighting in there, and you can see what looks to be maybe some flares or rockets. It's kind of hard to tell. Footage of that fighting there, of the Ukrainian military destroying that Russian army warehouse near Novaidir in Luhansk region. That was 19 hours ago. Again, 19 hours ago here, 66 shellings with MLRS Grad, MLRS Smerch artillery, and tanks in Kharkiv in the last 24 hours. 11 civilians were killed, 14 wounded. That was stated by the head of Kharkiv Regional Administration. 18 hours ago, a plane was spotted flying over Adivika, dropped a bomb near that city there. Again, that's in the Donetsk Oblast there. That the main line of conflict, I would say, the front line, goes right along here currently. Now, again, I'm going to get a little bit more in depth later to this, but the Russian strategy moving forward uh, is what's really important, is how they, again, enact kind of that pincer movement in this region here. Shark, thank you so much for subscribing. Much appreciated. Thank you for the support there. So again, that was 18 hours ago in Edvika. That bomb was dropped in that city there, and I can actually zoom in. I can zoom in on that for you. I was there in Edvika. You can see that front line there is approaching the city center now. 18 hours ago, Ukrainian army is ready for possible provocations from Transnistria, says the head of Odessa Regional Administration. Now, again, I've been talking about this for a very long time, since basically the beginning of this conflict, that there's no way that we're not going to see this Transnistria get involved in some way or another. In fact, early on in the conflict, there were some strikes near Vinnytsia Oblast that were speculated that the missiles might have been launched from the Transnistria breakaway region here, which you can see in red. Now, if the Russians are going to successfully move to take the entirety of the southern coast of Ukraine, they will most definitely need some forces here to the west to help link up the Russian forces that will be moving out of the east there. Now, again, I think that's pretty far-fetched, given that they gave up on their initial attempts of an amphibious landing in Odessa. They could have a renewed assault on Odessa. That's always a possibility as they look to kind of cap the entirety of the southern coast here. To kind of landlock Ukraine. That is always a possibility moving forward. Again, towards the end of the show, I actually mentioned this yesterday when I was updating you guys to the new reporting schedule. I mentioned that towards the end of this report tonight, my plan is we're going to lay out, I want us to go through and we're just going to lay out all of the possibilities, all of the options that the Russians have moving forward here. We're going to kind of do an outline of all of those things. I don't know how exactly. I'm going to kind of like make a list. We'll do like an on-screen list, and we'll talk about some things and how and just kind of what the options are here moving forward. Because Putin doesn't just have one battle plan; he has many, and he's cycling through them dynamically as the situation on the ground changes and unfolds as his situation develops. Okay, so moving forward here again. Just to reiterate there, Ukrainian army is ready for possible provocations from Transnistria. Again, that's the breakaway region in Moldova here, okay? Again, as I said, I've been talking about the possibility they get involved here, especially if they're going to take Odessa. It makes no sense. There are assets there that they can put into play here in Odessa. Again, you can see just how hard it's been for them to cap Mariupol. To take Mariupol in entirety has been a nightmare for them. As you can see here, the Ukrainians are holding 3 positions. Again, we'll kind of talk a little bit more in depth, but just really quickly, the Ukrainians are holding 3 main positions here in Mariupol. There's kind of this northern central front here in the west, and then in the east as well. They're holding all 3 positions here very well. And so you can see the Russians trying to kind of move to cut off this pocket of Ukrainian forces that is holding out here in eastern Mariupol, and they're doing the same thing. They're going to attempt to do the same thing here. You can see them kind of slipping up here from the south, from the shore. They're trying to cut off this pocket of Ukrainian resistance that is in this area here in Mariupol. And so for them to do this same maneuver in Odessa, they're going to 100% need some assets to move from Transnistria. I guarantee we're going to see. There's a high. I don't guarantee it. I don't like to guarantee anything. But let's just say with a high degree of possibility, there's a high degree of possibility that those forces could get involved here. Again, thank you for everybody that's tuning in. I'm just reading some of the chats here in the live chat. I'm going to continue going through those UA map updates here, but just taking a look at some of your guys' chats here. Again, thank you to everybody that is tuning in today. It's really awesome to see not only a bunch of familiar faces tuning into the stream, but some new faces as well. That's awesome. Yeah, chemical weapons still unconfirmed. We're still waiting to get some more concrete information. I'm going to go into depth when we're done with live UA map and we're done with the forced stuff. I'll touch more on the chemical weapon situation. Again, that's a pretty significant development, and it's worth going into that. Raindrop asks, "Oops, where's Nemico's hair? It all fell out when I started doing these reports, unfortunately." Commander Dante, with an interesting point, says 40,000 troops lost, but we're still pretending Russia can win. Is the number 40,000 yet? I'll bring up the official numbers from Kiev Independent. In fact, I can do that now. Yeah, I'm gonna do that now. Let's take a look at Kiev Independent, and I'll also look at the Russian numbers as well, because I've told people before the best way, the only way to get true, accurate, semi-accurate estimates of what these numbers look like is to take a look at what the British Defense Ministry is saying, what the U.S. intelligence is saying, what the Ukrainians are saying, and then finally what the Russians are saying, and then get out your pocket calculator and run the average on all of those numbers, and that's about what that's about what the reality is. Add some though, because you have to account for all of the wounded and KIA that haven't been accounted for yet. Okay, so 1 second here while I'm trying to. Okay, so we're currently, as of April 11th, we're at 19. In fact, hold on. I'm going to really quickly get this up on screen here for you guys, so you can see what I'm talking about. So, as of the 11th. Yeah, I don't know where you got the 40,000 number. It's possible, of course, but I like to take a look at all of these numbers that are coming out from multiple different sources and then run the average. That's the best way to do it. Yeah, dust off. Some dude says in the chat. Right on, man. He says dust off the old TI-84 and get calculating. That's the best way to actually get a good approximation of these numbers. Is to take all of the numbers from the Russian side, the Ukrainian side, the British defense. That's a good resource, British Ministry of Defense, surprisingly, for these battle numbers, and U.S. intelligence as well. Again, so for the Ukrainians, they're saying as of April 11th, we got 19,500 troops. So right up around 20,000 Russian troops have died. Okay, 154 planes have been downed, 111 MLRS systems, 7 boats, 137 helicopters. 1,387 vehicles, 725 tanks, 76 fuel trucks, 347 artillery pieces, 119 UAVs, 1,923 armored personnel carriers. So your APCs, your etc., your BMPs, your smaller armored vehicles. Compared to, of course, your 725 tanks. 55 anti-aircraft warfare systems, 4 mobile, sorry, my head's in the way, 4 mobile SRBM systems. I believe, are those air defense systems, if I'm not mistaken? Again, I'm not a military hardware expert. If somebody could confirm, I believe SRBMs are another form of air defense, if I'm not, or maybe like a ballistic missile system. Oh, as Michelle speculates, possibly that 40K estimate could be KIA and wounded in action all in. Yeah, that could be. That's possible. Oh, I see. Yeah, Commander Dante cleared that up there. Okay, yeah, I mean, that could be. Yeah. I would say that's accurate. I mean, there definitely has been a fair share of wounded. Do they actually have wounded on here? They don't have the wounded listed on here, but again, those are our current numbers from the Ukrainians, okay, to be specific. Those are our numbers from the Ukrainians. Not, I would say those are not concrete numbers. The best way, again, if you guys want to get the concrete numbers, the best way to do it, really quickly though, Kendall clarifies there. Short-range ballistic missile. Right, that makes sense. Sorry. Yeah, that acronym is accurate. Okay, so again, if you want to get sorry, excuse me. If you want to get the most accurate estimate for these numbers, the best way to do it, in my opinion, okay, is again to take the Russian numbers, go look up the Russian numbers, and then take the Ukrainian numbers, and you can also add in like NATO and European, intelligence, their kind of analysis. Add in those numbers, add in the numbers from the U.S. intelligence as well, and then run your average. And honestly, those are the numbers I would probably, those are the numbers I would trust. It's somewhere in the middle. It's the average, okay, between what all sides are saying. That's most likely what the reality is. Okay, so again, switching back over to our live UA map here, we were here 18 hours ago with that report about the provocation from Transnistria. Again, we're going to have to keep an eye on that. I noticed just now more alerts have popped up. I'm not sure. Oh, I guess that's because I showed the previous. So when we're done with this, I'll go ahead and I'll refresh it. And I'll try to refresh it, and we'll see if any more of those air raid siren alerts have come in. Again, the bot actually should be pushing those to the live chat. I'm not sure if it's currently working or not. I'll have to take a look at that later. Again, the stream goes 24 hours a day for the cam stream itself. The reports are on a schedule now moving forward. Again, I'll talk more about that at the end of the show, kind of how the scheduling is working and all that. But this stream is 24-hour, and when we're done with the report tonight, I'm going to go ahead and make sure we'll get not only all the cameras updated and everything, but I'll make sure to update all the logistical stuff as well. And we'll also kind of take a refresh on this live UA map to see if any new reports have come in. All right, so after that last 18-hour report there, we got some air raid sirens here in Donetsk Oblast and in Kharkiv. So again, in the east of the country, where we have seen a escalation in the fighting along that initial contact front as the Russians look to move forces into the area from Crimea, from Belarus out of the north, and then out of the east, out of Russia. They're resupplying and they're reamassing the troops along this front here to take a new renewed assault, a new coordinated assault, again, as they have that general there that was known for his operations in Syria. So now there's one battle commander here, so to speak, one general that's taken on all of the responsibility here for basically the entirety of the assault on the east here, which is going to take place. Too Tall, thank you so much for tuning in today. Glad to have you in the live chat, aiding in your moderation, with your moderation support there. Okay, so moving on here, 16 hours ago, Kedrov in a new video showing operational maps from his commanders again. That's that Chechen leader there, I believe. You see here that report came out of the Donetsk region here in the Donbass. Again, we'll go ahead and play that video for you guys. Here's that video snippet there.
Командиров и получил от них карты полностью до точки обозначены, задачи ясны, и мы уже начинаем работать. Я получил все доклады от всех командиров.
As the tweet said actually up here, it says continuing the great tradition of top-notch operational security that the Russian military has established in this war, again speaking to the Lukashenko map disaster. Kedriev on his daily Telegram video shows operational maps he says he has just received from his commanders. I mean, you guys, that's obviously false. It's obviously feeding false news, right? They want you to think that these are the actual maps, so that the Ukrainians, they hope that the Ukrainians will think, okay, this is what they're going to do. In the reality, they're probably going to do the direct opposite of what's on these maps here. But yeah, this is intentional. This isn't unintentional. Hell of a beard. Jenny McGann asks, is he drunk? Possible, but I would speculate that this is intentional. This is most likely intentional, you guys. Same with the Lukashenko maps, okay? Uh, the Russians have done a few dumb things, okay? They've done quite a few dumb things since this war started. I'm not gonna downplay that. However, they're not that dumb. And this sort of thing is a traditional war tactic, feeding false information like that. So not surprising at all. Again, heading back to our live UA map here and continuing on. Again, that was from 18 hours ago with those air quotes operational maps. Again, moving on, more air raid sirens starting at the 18-hour mark in Poltavska. That was a red alert aerial threat siren. Kharkiv, Dnipro, these are all the oblasts, by the way. Kirvi, again, red alert sounding now. So there was quite a few bursts of air raid sirens that happened there from the 18 to 17-hour mark there. At the 17-hour mark here, again, a report came out, detachment of technical and scientific gendarmes, not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, who came to assist Ukrainian people in the investigation of war crimes committed around Kiev. France first to provide such aid. They will be at work tomorrow. Again, you can see a picture of them there after they have arrived in the country. 16 hours ago, explosions are audible in Kharkiv. Again, that was earlier today. I was actually up when those explosions started to be reported there. We were seeing quite a bit of flashes actually on a lot of those cameras. Yeah, what Too Tall said, he says, or are they thinking that we could just put out the real intel and nobody will think it is real 5D chess? Exactly. Yes, and that's kind of the idea. Is that either they're feeding fake map information, fake movement information, just to keep the Ukrainian intelligence busy, or that's the real information and they're feeding it to them purposely so they'll think it's fake information. So yeah, again, that's an old school war tactic right there. And when you're talking about, Putin with his KGB history, he's bound to try all sorts of things like that. Their commanders are known for trying all sorts of interesting tactics like that. So we'll have to see if that works out for them or not. Okay, so moving on from that 17-hour report, we had the explosions audible in Kharkiv, of course. And then at 16 hours, we had a report. Russia has prepared a disinformation campaign to disrupt arms supplies to Ukraine. Again, this is a very concerning report there. So we're going to have to see what comes of that. There's always the possibility that Russia could attempt, I use the word attempt, to stop arms shipments into Ukraine. How would they do that? They would start targeting these arms shipments directly via bombardment along Ukraine's western borders, okay, via cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, etc. There's always the possibility still that there could be a movement down from Belarus along the western edge of Ukraine and Poland's border. Okay, there was reports earlier in the month about this possibly happening when there was a significant number of mobilizing Russian troops located near Brest. As of a short while ago, it still looks like there are still troops posted in this area. However, they would need to shuffle some more troops from around Belarus to make that, I think, happen for them, especially since straight down to Lviv, they would need to go right down to Lviv, if not farther, right down to right down straight to the Romanian border here, to cut off that western supply chain that's heading into Ukraine. Very unlikely that they would do this, though. It would be a logistical nightmare for them to pull that off, given that there's an immense Ukrainian force movement in this area. Also, you have the risk that they're running, operating so close to the Polish border. However, it is a possibility. So I would say, though, even more likely than that is that we will see, you'll probably start to see these arms shipments being directly targeted. So things like cruise missiles, ballistic missiles, maybe sabotage, etc., on some of those arms shipments coming into the country. That's a real possibility. 16 hours ago, the Czech Republic, in a statement, says Russia is not a superpower. It has a number of nuclear warheads, but it has lost dominance in many other categories. Again, that was a report there, a press release there by the Czech Republic. 16 hours ago, more air raid sirens sounding in Kharkiv. That came after just a few hours earlier than that. There was some air raid sirens there in that town. There's been a lot of bombardment in Kharkiv continuing since the war began, especially over the past few weeks. I know on our channel we actually uploaded a pretty significant bombardment which occurred about a week or so ago on the Kharkiv ski camp. From an MLRS grad strike, we actually had recorded the outgoing rockets and then their explosions as they landed right in front of the camera. You can actually see that video over on our YouTube channel now. It's actually a short, so you'd have to look for that in our list of videos there. That was probably one of the most intense shellings we had seen on that Kharkiv ski camp so far, besides those massive fires that we had seen about a week ago, I believe those were. 15 hours ago, Borrell, in his statement, says EU ban on Russian oil will happen sooner or later. So again, if this conflict continues to escalate, we're going to see more of that sanctioning of Russian oil, and again, I think that's going to have ongoing consequences for not only the Europeans but also us here in the Americas as well. I believe everywhere there will be furthering consequences on the price of oil. I know there was kind of some bounce back after the war initially started, but I think moving especially into the summer here, we're going to see continuing escalations in those prices. There's always the possibility this conflict could end in early May if the Russians can achieve their goals or if there can be some kind of compromise met here. Speculation and initial analysis now is looking like that's not going to happen. It's very unlikely to happen. However, we hope and pray that it does occur. That the Russians and the Ukrainians can come to some kind of compromise here over the coming weeks, and that maybe the Russians can have that May 9th victory parade that they're looking for in Russia for their Victory Day. Now, the question still remains: does that come at a price here? Will they be able to compromise at the negotiating table? Again, it remains to be seen. But again, just to reiterate, there is furthering sanctions and furthering embargoing of the Russian oil infrastructure that is ongoing. So we're going to continue to see more of that here moving forward. Yeah, so again, the Pentagon released again. Just to reiterate for everybody in the chat, I know some people were asking again about the chemical attack, the chemical weapons attack. It's an ongoing. That's a breaking news story tonight. We're still getting the information in on the situation with that possible chemical weapons attack in Mariupol. But at this time, it still is not confirmed. Okay, so we're still waiting to get more information on that. After I'm done going through the live UA map updates, I'll kind of jump over we'll kind of deep dive into the situation in Mariupol and the possibility of those weapons attacks. Okay, guys, just taking a quick drink here. as we reach our 1 hour of reporting, and now we're moving into our second hour block here of reporting this evening. Again, April 11th. For those of you that miss out on tonight's report, again, we'll be uploading it to the YouTube channel after it is done live here. So, again, we're continuing on with these live UA map updates. I'm going through the past about 24 hours or so to get everybody caught up. And then after that, we're going to kind of do some deep dives into the situation with this chemical attack in Mariupol. We'll also look at the maps for, we'll kind of track these Russian troop movements and kind of go into the strategy there. And then also I'll switch over towards the end to answer questions from chat and everything like that. So just stand by. Again, taking a quick drink here, guys. To moisten my palate here as we again come on to the 1 hour now of reporting here. Tiger Eye 912, thank you so much for tuning in today. Google User 2, thank you for tuning in today. Glad to see everybody tuning in this evening to the stream. Jack, thank you so much for Jack Mahau. Thank you so much for tuning into the stream this evening. Again, glad to see so many both familiar faces and new faces tuning in to the stream this evening. It's awesome. Tonight is our first night back on our new reporting schedule. We're going to be bringing you guys a 1 to 2 hour block of reporting every single evening, with the exception of some days on weekends I might be taking off. And then, of course, we're also going to be doing micro reports all day during the day. And we're also on call for if anything happens. We'll be bringing those reports to you guys. Stay tuned to the Discord announcements channel. That's where we'll be announcing whenever I go live. For like those micro reports during the day. That's the best way to find when I go live for those. Is in that announcements channel. Again, really quickly, before we continue on with the live UA map updates here, I just want to go ahead and just take a quick minute to thank all my moderators, both over in the Discord and in the live chats on both YouTube and Twitch. You guys are a massive help, a huge support. It's because of you guys that this operation is able to take place. Rattlehead, thank you for tuning in. You're also looking pretty animated today. Thank you very much for those kind words. Okay, so continuing on here with these live UA map updates. Again, back at the 15-hour mark there, we saw those air raids sounding in Donetsk, Poltavska, and Dnipro. So just to reiterate, the past 24 hours have been extremely eventful, especially when you get into the wee hours of the night. The uptick in air raid alerts and bombardment across Ukraine, there's been a pattern of that increasing. That's why right now, as we're giving these reports, it's about 5:12 a.m. Kiev time, okay? And earlier I showed you guys kind of a view of the map with those updated air raids. We're going to do that again when I'm done, so after that 2-hour mark, and you guys should be able to see that kind of early morning report of that early morning uptick in those reports. The background is stretched. I'll see if I can kind of slightly unstretch that for you guys, just so that everybody. Actually, that's as far as it goes. Yeah, that's as far as it goes there. Yeah, this is actually unstretched. This is 100% unstretched. But it should. If you guys should be able to read all the text and everything just fine. If not, I'll have to look into that after the stream. I'll go ahead and fix that if that's an issue. Okay, so continuing on here, again, we had those air raid sirens at the 15-hour mark. Now moving on to the 14-hour mark from earlier, a questionnaire handover again by European Commissioner Oliver Varhelyi. Again, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. To the Minister of Foreign Affairs and European integration of Moldova on the sideline of today's Foreign Affairs Council in Luxembourg. Again, the continuing diplomatic efforts here ongoing. 13 hours ago, Prime Minister of Lithuania says, today my visit in Ukraine started in Borodianka, which has been said, of course, to be hit harder, much harder than Bucha, some of the other areas around Kiev, in that Kiev Oblast, Borodyanka is said to have been some of the hardest hit areas when it comes to civilian casualties. Of course, that picture there of this apartment block has been shared many times. Just the utter destruction of that civilian apartment block there. He says no words could possibly describe what I saw and felt there in the city. I'm going to bring up this picture here full screen so you guys can see that there. Again, I saw Chandler asked when's the best time to try in Q&A. We're going to do the Q&A after I'm done with reports here. So if you stick around about another 40 minutes or so, in the last 20 to 30 minutes of the show, we'll kind of just do a full focus on the chat. I'll answer questions. We'll kind of do some speculation on some things. I'll do a little bit of Q&A with you guys as well. So yeah, this is again that picture that's been shared a lot on the news the past about week or so here. This destroyed apartment flat in Borodyanka with the gaping hole in there. I believe there was quite a few that were killed in that strike there. Google user 2 actually really quickly says, I heard Zelensky on 60 Minutes. He's a humble and very honest man. Makes me proud that he's their president. You know, I mean, if there was a shred of respect I didn't have Zelensky prior to that interview, I now have it. I think that was an amazing interview. I think it was really good, and I kind of admire his. I admire his, you know, pardon my French, guys, but I admire his, you know, kind of fuck NATO and the West for not helping more attitude. You know what I mean? I kind of like his attitude of like, you guys, like, we're literally, you know, you're not doing enough. You know what I mean? It just, the talk isn't enough, you know, and his ability to see, you know, see through the BS, you know what I mean, is highly respected in my case. And yeah, he's a great speaker. I loved that interview. That 60 minute. I'm not a big fan, of course, of, you know, a lot of mainstream news outlets and stuff. That 60 minutes interview though was definitely worth a watch. I highly recommend anybody that would like to watch that to do so. A great interview with Zelensky. One of the best that's been done, in my opinion. Yeah, it was definitely a no BS interview. Okay, so again, moving on here with those live UA updates. 13 hours ago, more red alert sirens. That was for Kharkiv. So if you notice there, that's like what, 4 or 5 in like a 24-hour, not even a 24-hour period, like a 12-hour period. In fact, let's just go back and count. 1, 2, 3, 4. And these are all red alerts, mind you, not all clears. 5, another take cover. That's 5 right there. So it actually just auto refreshed. Sorry about that. Let me go down here. Yeah, so we'll just stick here at the 19-hour mark. So yeah, there was 5 there I just counted in just that short period of time. Kharkiv is absolutely under fire constantly. Absolutely constantly they're coming under fire by bombardment. So 13 hours ago, Ukraine expects Russian attack in country's east will begin soon. That was by a defense ministry spokesperson for Ukraine. Again, we've seen the evidence. We have the Maxar images. We have the satellite imagery that's come out over the past week or two now of those forces moving to the east, redeploying in the east. They are there in the Donbass, in these areas at this time, and they are ready for this renewed assault. Now, only time will tell if that is going to be successful or not. We will see. 13 hours ago, occupation authorities in parts of Donetsk region of Ukraine via Russian state media urged to use chemical weapons against Ukrainian troops in Mariupol. This came before... Okay, this came before the reports of the chemical attacks. Again, I'll read that for you. It says the occupation authorities in parts of the Donetsk region of Ukraine via Russian state media were urging the use of chemical weapons against Ukrainian troops in Mariupol. What do we see 12 hours later? We see unconfirmed reports of these chemical attacks in Mariupol. Again, I'll go into more confirmed speculation into that. But this here is a piece of evidence that I think a lot of us didn't that we looked over when we saw those initial reports come in this evening. I think a lot of us didn't realize that this report had come out 13 hours ago, right here, saying the occupation authorities in part of Donetsk, again, region of Ukraine, via Russian state media, so I mean like the TV outlets, the local news, were urging to use those chemical weapons against those forces in Mariupol. Again, it automatically refreshed itself. I got to turn off my auto update here. Sorry, 1 second. There we go. Okay. All right. So again, that's a big deal right there. I don't think a lot of people realize that when we're hearing about this breaking news story here, is that those occupation forces were calling for it to happen. They wanted it to happen. All right. They were like, okay, we need this to happen. If we're to take Mariupol, we need these chemical weapons to be used. Oh, whoops. Sorry. Instead of dragging the map, I dragged the map in the wrong window. All right. So if we zoom in here, just to reiterate what I'm talking about. If they're going to take Mariupol here, Mariupol has been an absolute stronghold for the Ukrainian forces. You know, I realized I should put the ticker up on this screen here, and I'll do that. Somebody had asked about that a minute ago on Discord. They messaged me and asked if I could put the ticker up on this screen here, so they could still see the news ticker. I'll do that. 1 second. It'll only take me a short second here. There we go. Okay, I'll transition that over now. There we go. Now we have our news ticker at the top there, and I'll make sure that's fully expanded there to the top of the screen. Awesome. Okay, and then I'll move my little watermark down there. Okay. I feel like I'm the Bob Ross of news now. Okay. All right, let's go. So, again, that report, I'll touch more on that later when we go into the specifics. The specifics there around that chemical attack and kind of do some speculation and some deep diving into that. 13 hours ago, authorities in the Voronezh region increased terrorist threat level in Rostov and the Kanatamirvika districts regions. Again, this I believe that's in Russia. This is over the Ukrainian border in Russia, where they are increasing this terrorist threat level. As you can see, the Ukrainian border is in red there, as you can see there, and those reports came out of this region here. So I believe that is in the Russian territory, and we have seen other reports like that recently. So this isn't the first time we've seen that. Okay, so moving on, at the 13-hour mark, we got a report in that said one had been killed as a result of a Russian army shelling on the Lysychansk with heavy weapons. Again, I'll pull that up on the map here. That's up by Rubazine, if I'm not mistaking that pronunciation here. Again, in the east of the country here, and you can see the shelling here. Those pictures are pretty devastating there. Of the crater left behind from that shelling there in Lysychansk. Hope I'm pronouncing that one right. I'd like to think I've been getting better at pronouncing some of these Ukrainian town names. So thank you again for bearing with me on that. 12 hours ago, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Miley, spoke with the Commander-in-Chief of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, General Valery Zaluzny, yesterday by phone. Miley emphasized that the U.S. is united with allies and partners in the resolve to support Ukraine. This comes as, again, renewed weapons shipments are heading into Ukraine from U.S. and NATO partner countries. Both NATO countries and NATO partner countries. There's a whole laundry list of countries and their aid that is heading in to Ukraine now at this time. Again, has been since this war first broke out. 12 hours ago, a report here, smoke rising near Olenivka. Again, that is also in the east, in the Donetsk region here, in the Donbass. You can see the picture of that smoke rising there in the distance. Still unsure if that was a result of Russian shelling or if that was a result from Ukrainian shelling a Russian position. So moving on here, 11 hours ago, in a statement here, so there are no plans to bring more Ukraine troops to U.S. for training. Again, they were training here in the United States, amongst other things, to use the Switchblade drones, the new Switchblade drones which are being provided to them. There was some other things that they were doing here as well, as for like logistics training, etc. But there are currently. According to this statement here, which was made earlier today, there are no more plans to bring more Ukrainian troops, again, to the U.S. for training. That was per a senior U.S. defense official, saying a group of troops that just returned, to whom the Secretary of Defense spoke Sunday, had been in the U.S. since November to December of 2021. So again, that is long before the invasion started, that there has been this training going on, not only on American soil, but also on Ukrainian soil. Keep in mind, we have had trainers. We have had personnel in Ukraine before the invasion broke out. We did have personnel in Ukraine on the ground, instructing those soldiers on how to use things like these anti-tank guided munition systems, amongst other things. Moving on here, a meeting between Chancellor Karl Nehammer and Putin is over after 75 minutes. Again, we reported on that earlier. Again, he was very adamant that it was not a friendly visit. He was very adamant in his, in his support for Ukraine before making that visit. At an Austrian request, there were no joint pictures and no joint press statements, okay? Feeding right back into the whole idea there that, the Austrians were not happy to be there. They went there for diplomacy, but they weren't going to, they weren't going to play into the diplomatic hand of Putin at all. They didn't make, in fact, the Russians made no comments on their comments. There was no response from the Russians in any way. And again, those pictures after the meeting did not take place, amongst other things that you would usually see at these press briefings. Okay, so again, moving on here. 11 hours ago, the Indian Prime Minister says we will send a new batch of medical aid to Ukraine soon. This comes as the humanitarian crisis grows in the country. The amount of wounded, not just on the military side of things, but on the civilian side of things, grows by the hour and at times by the minute. And so they are in heavy need of more medical supplies, including medicine. In fact, from what I've gathered from speaking to people on the ground, is that food supplies are doing quite well. Most staple supplies, things like food, water, toiletries, etc., all that stuff is doing pretty good at getting into the country and getting into shops in most places. Now, there's exceptions with two things. One, ammunition, of course, and lethal aid is always in short supply, and they need more of that. Things like mortar rounds, artillery rounds, javelin missile systems, of course, and small arms ammunition of a variety of different calibers, things like helmets, vests, all that sort of stuff they need. In fact, in a lot of places of Ukraine, the Ukrainian Defense Forces, most of them, the volunteer forces, the reservists, the conscripts, they are, in most cases, not fully geared, so not in full uniforms. In fact, I saw some footage earlier today from the east of Ukraine of some of the defense forces that were setting up. They were digging in there in the east of Ukraine for this renewed assault in places like west of the Donetsk and Luhansk regions. There was footage coming out today of them, digging these trenches, and most of them, were wearing blue jeans and hoodies with an armored vest over top of that, and then using blue tape as armbands for unit identification. So there's a very high need for things like camo, fatigues, BDUs, etc., plate carriers, helmets, knee pads, all that sort of stuff. And then on the other side of the spectrum, the only other need there really is in the country right now is medicine. Medicine is very highly needed, especially in the east, especially in places where the supply chains have been cut off for extended periods of time. Things like diabetic medication, things like antibiotics, things as simple as bandaging and all of those type of supplies. They are highly in need there in the country. So those are the two needs right there: is military supplies, lethal and defensive aid, and then medical aid. As for food and stuff like that, people at this time, thank God, in most places aren't going hungry. I know there are some exceptions. You have, places like Mariupol, you have places like Kharkiv, harder hit places where it's a little bit harder for those supply chains to get into the city, to the areas, to those oblasts. In those areas, yeah, there are some food shortages occurring, but for the majority of the country, the supply chains have been able to hold together pretty well so far. The opposite could be said for the Russian forces in most areas, as we've seen, evidence of them having to loot and pillage certain areas, shops, grocery stores, etc., supply chain convoys in some cases even. And that's just the case. That's nothing that's just unique about the Russian forces. It's the fact that they're ill-equipped, and in some cases their supply chains get cut off, and in wartime, especially in an invading force, you're going to see that activity occur. It's quite common. The same activity occurred in World War II. As supply chains get cut off, you need to look to local resources, to get things like food, water, etc. for your troops, fuel in some cases even. We've seen, Russian troops. We've not only seen this happen with Russian troops, we've also seen this happen with Ukrainian troops at times, having to go to local civilian pumps for diesel fuel and stuff like that as these supply chains get restricted in the country. Again, so moving forward here with those reports, we were talking about that medical aid there at the 11-hour mark. That report came in on the map. That was a report, again, by the Indian Prime Minister stating that they will send a new batch of medical aid to Ukraine. Okay, so a few other reports there from that Indian Prime Minister 11 hours ago. This came in. Indian Prime Minister says, we propose to Moscow to hold talks between the Russian and Ukrainian presidents. Again, it remains to be seen if those are actually going to go through. We've seen these exact statements made by, I think, almost every president in the Eastern Hemisphere at this time. And now, of course, an echoing report now from the Prime Minister there. Again, they want to get, they're putting the offer on the table diplomatically, saying, hey, we're willing to organize these talks if you guys are willing to have them. Again, this has happened multiple times over the past month now, dozens, I would say, and that doesn't mean that the talks will happen. It just means that India is providing the opportunity to help coordinate those talks. 11 hours ago, the Indian Prime Minister assures Biden that the situation in Ukraine is very worrying. Again, I don't know why Biden would need any assurance on that. I'm pretty sure he's very well aware, or that the U.S. is very well aware of the situation there in the country. Again, it is, the longer this goes on, the further it deteriorates and the more dangerous it becomes, okay? We saw what happened in Kiev, all right? That was that lightning advance into Kiev, into the areas around Kiev, was a separate objective for them to possibly take the capital in one swift go. Of course, that did not work out for them. Many were surprised that they pulled out of that area. But what it means going forward is that it's more dangerous now that they're being backed into a corner. We have this renewed offensive in the east, possibility of further bombardment in Kiev in the west. That's always a possibility. They are not outside of range of ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, or any of Russia's hypersonic capabilities as well. So it's definitely still a danger that needs to be considered. That the west of Ukraine Ukraine is still not entirely safe. However, a lot of people have asked me over the past few days, do you think a renewed lightning assault on Kiev could happen? I don't think so. If it were to happen, we would see it coming. The Ukrainians would see it coming, and arguably it would be a lot harder for the Russians to do it. I would say the only way they would do that is once they've taken care of the situation in Mariupol, once they've taken care of the situation in the east and in Kharkiv, they might be able to do something like that. There's also U.S. intel analysis, initial analysis now that's saying there's a possibility that they might just push eastward right to the Dnieper, right to Kiev, and that since they have a unified battle commander and a unified battle strategy now moving forward, and now that the terrain is different and that the situation has changed in eastern Ukraine, that they might be able to pull something off in that regard. That they might be able to push east like on a slow grind, right to the Dnieper. And possibly into Kiev eventually, but that remains to be seen. Again, this new air quotes I like to say renewed offensive hasn't begun yet. There is currently fighting ongoing in the east, but this renewed push that we're seeing, that the Russians prepare for, has not begun yet. So what I would like to speculate on is that, it's just the same that we saw with the first round, right? Okay, we thought, the Russians were going to push right into Kiev. It didn't happen, okay? And so that might also happen here with this, again, air quotes, renewed offensive in the east. We might see them go to make this new push westward, out of the east, and be completely stopped in their tracks by the Ukrainian defensive forces. However, most U.S. intel analysts, are speculating that with the terrain being different, with the supplies, like the anti-tank guided munition supplies being a little bit lower this time around, now that we're in the second phase of war, especially with the terrain difference, that their anti-tank guided munitions, things like the javelins, things like the NLAWs, won't be as efficient and won't be as much of a help in the east. And so that's why we see the switchblades being used. That's why they have the Ukrainians here training for those switchblades, is because they knew this second phase of the war was eventually inevitably going to happen, and the terrain in the east is different. The switchblades allow them to reach out to these tanks, reach out to these convoys farther than they would be able to with the javelins and NLAW systems. There's nowhere for those anti-tank teams to hide in the east, okay? In those open fields, there's nowhere for those anti-tank teams to set up, and so they need to use things like the switchblades, things like the Bayraktars, things like drones to be able to reach out to those Russian convoys. So again, we're going to see if those munitions are able to be successful, given that the Russians do have air defense systems, and they might be able to thwart some of those drones, especially when it comes to their electronic warfare systems. They do have some capabilities that need to be accounted for here. So when it comes to like thwarting those switchblades and some of that drone technology, they might have an advantage. Of course, on the other hand, we might see the same scenario which happened in the first phase. We might see them roll in past those front lines and then immediately get steamrolled and repelled by those Russian forces. Again, we're gonna have to wait and see what happens and how this progresses. Moving forward. Okay, so 10 hours ago, 30 houses were damaged in Mykolivka, a village in the Porokovsk district, as a result of artillery shelling today. Again, that's here on the map here. That's shelling. Again, they didn't state if that was Russian or Ukrainian shelling. However, given that it is in Ukrainian-held territory, that's most likely Russian artillery that's being fired from these forward positions here onto that area, onto those residential houses. Again, just had to take a quick drink there, guys. So 10 hours ago, another report came in here, said high terrorist alert level has been introduced in 2 districts in the Krasnodar Krai, bordering Ukraine by the sea. That's down here. So we not only saw those terrorist alerts here on Russian territory and here on Russian territory, but we're also seeing a terrorist alert level here. This is very concerning. okay? Because that means that there could be a stage being set here, a narrative being set here for a false flag attack on Russian territory, which could be a, air quotes, excuse for a further escalation by Russian forces, okay? Again, if the Russians feel directly threatened on their territory, that gives them cause to further escalate the situation. It gives them cause for things like these chemical weapons attacks, for the hopefully, God forbid, possibility of a tactical nuclear strike. Again, we've speculated on that in the past. There's multiple scenarios that could occur. Towards the end of this show, I'm going to we'll kind of outline possibilities moving forward here, and kind of go into some speculation as to kind of the possibilities and what's in the deck of cards as for Putin's options here. What's on the table going forward? What are the possibilities for these eventualities that could occur as the war progresses here? 10 hours ago, a European Union accuses Russia of causing air quotes, hunger in the world through its war in Ukraine. That's in direct reference to the affected food supply chains, things like the wheat supply chain. We've talked about this on the show a few times. We were talking about how this war in Russia is severely affecting the wheat exports amongst other food exports, and that's going to have ongoing consequences, outreaching consequences, I would say, for not just Ukraine and Russia, but also for Europe and for the Americas as well, without a doubt. Those are the two real sectors that we're seeing the most effect in, are oil and the food supply chains. Those are really the two most effective, I would say, affected by the war. Again, 10 hours ago here, Austrian leader says he has open and tough talks with Putin in Moscow. Again, that came after those talks took place there. They didn't have the photo op or any of the traditional press meeting events that you would see for those diplomatic meetings when they usually take place. 10 hours ago, the World Trade Organization says the war in Ukraine could cut world trade in half this year. So, again, earlier we were talking about the fact that there's about a 45% contraction of the Ukrainian economy, about a 11 to 12% contraction in the Russian economy slated, and that's slated to grow, of course, over the coming months as this continues. Now the World Trade Organization, again, is saying 10 hours ago, that this could be a worldwide, that we could see up to a 50% contraction in world trade overall due to the war in Ukraine, amongst other factors. So here, again, going forward, another report by the Austrian Chancellor. Again, we just saw that other report. Austrian leader said the talks were open and tough, but then another report saying the talks with Putin were not friendly. Again, just to reiterate that, those talks that the Austrian Chancellor had. He also said it is important to confront Putin with the facts in Ukraine. I would have really much liked to have seen some live footage of those talks. That would have been very interesting. 10 hours ago, a Russian military column was spotted near Rostov. You can see that picture of that Russian military column there on screen. If I go to the video here, we should also have a video that I can play for you guys of that as well. Here's this video. Is this the one here? Yes, it is. This is the video here.
Правильно бояться, ёпта. О, это колонна В. Это, между прочим, охренеть. Извините за выражение, прошу прощения. Сейчас я на камеру снимаю. Да, ребят, я вижу тувинцев или бурятов. Судя по тому, что, смотрите, наш флаг имперский.
Some blue and white on some of those. Interesting. Very interesting. Again, here's more footage of that convoy that was
Да,
there.
ребят, это колонна В. Я полагаю, что это та самая колонна, которая была под Киевом. Я могу, конечно, ошибиться, меня поправят. Вы посмотрите, сколько здесь машин. Все стоят, готовые. В течение ближайших нескольких дней начнется крупнейшая операция со времен Второй мировой войны. Морская пехота, ребят.
That blue and white flag, I couldn't identify it.
Давайте, родненькие, давайте.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously not a Finnish flag, but it's like some kind of unit flag or something. Oh, it's
Русский
the, oh,
флаги,
yeah, that's
русский
right. It's the
флаги.
blue and white Russian imperial
Давайте,
flag.
друзья.
Yeah, it's so some people are saying it's a Russian imperial flag, that blue and white one. Flap and Jack says, "Look at all that soon-to-be scrap metal." Yeah, again, we'll have to see how this pans out here. Again, this was in Rostov here, so that's them heading eastbound. So that's more equipment heading over the Russian border into Ukraine there. Again, that was 10 hours ago. 10 hours ago, Russian occupation authorities declared high terrorist alert in Crimea. So that's the third report I've had for you guys this evening from Live UAMAP. We had the 2 alerts there. They're increasing the terrorist threat alert in Russian territory there, and here in Crimea here. So again, that is very concerning. That is extremely concerning to see those reports coming out. That is definitely setting the stage for some kind of false flag narrative. We're going to have to keep an eye on that very closely. Yeah, again, somebody said there are 15 minutes left in the update. No, I'm probably going to be going a bit longer than that. Again, if anybody missed it, I'll be uploading the full recording after this after the reports are done. I'm still going through Live UAMAP here. It's taking a little bit longer than I expected, which is good. We're kind of going in depth and kind of taking a look at some of what's going on here in the country over the past 24 hours or so. After this, we're going to kind of go into depth on some of those Russian troop movements real quick, and then also I'll hop over to the chat and I'll start talking to all you guys. Marisa asks, what do you mean by terrorist attacks? Well, these are alerts that the Russians have put out in areas of Russia. So here on the map, here on the map was one from earlier. All right. Occupation authorities in parts of Donetsk region of Ukraine. Actually, no, not there. That was about the chemical attack one. We'll talk about that more later. 13 hours ago, authorities in the Voronezh region increased terrorist threat level in Odessa and Rostov, and I'm having a very hard time pronouncing those Russian town names there. But in these 2 regions here, that's the terrorist threat level. So basically, they're concerned, air quotes, that a terrorist attack could occur in that area of Russia. So that's what the Russians are saying. You see that also here in the south on Russian territory, and then also here in Crimea. 10 hours ago, Russian occupation authorities declared high terrorist threat alert in Crimea. So to me, what this says is that they are trying to set the stage for some kind of narrative. Okay, some kind of attack will take place, they're going to possibly stage some kind of attack. Again, this is all speculation on my part here, and this is kind of the pattern we've seen, though. All right, this is a pattern we've seen repeating since the war has began. As Rocketman says, Ukraine's special forces behind enemy lines are not terrorists. Now, see, that could be, okay, so it could be a direct threat alert saying, like they have evidence that maybe there could be Ukrainian special forces maybe moving in to conduct attacks on Russian territory. Or it could be the Russians looking to, again, form a narrative of a false flag attack for further escalations in the east. Again, as they build these narratives, it's not so much to convince the West; it's really about convincing the Russian people. If they need to do a renewed offensive in the east, they need to have reasoning for it, of course. They need to continue their, air quotes, special military operation. And for them to do so, they need to justify these things. Yeah, as Mandy says, justifies the use of chemical and nuclear. Exactly. So you see the use of these chemical attacks in Mariupol. You could see a false flag. Oops, again, I'm moving the wrong map. You could see the false flag occur somewhere in Russian territory here or here in Crimea, which would then escalate the use of these chemical weapons attacks, maybe escalate to further bombardment, maybe ballistic missiles. Again, I don't really like to touch into the nuke part of things. That's like a no-no word for me. But the tactical nuke possibility grows by the fucking day. All right. Again, sorry for my French there, guys. I get a little heated when people start bringing up the nuke topic. I don't like to talk about the nuke topic, but unfortunately, the further we go into this conflict, the closer we get to, as Putin gets backed into a corner here, the possibility of, him resorting to things like chemical weapons and tactical nuclear weapons and things like that, it grows immensely, okay? We hope and we pray, God forbid, that those weapons are not used in this conflict. Now, but when you see things like this, these threat alerts, these terrorist threat alerts, being issued like this, it's very concerning because it tells you that either there's a narrative being built here, okay, which could be justification for something, or you're seeing possibly a real alert that maybe Ukrainian special forces are looking to do attacks on Russian territory. Either or, it doesn't matter. Either way, that would be justification in Russia's eyes, in the Kremlin's eyes, in Putin's eyes. That would be justification for them to escalate things. Okay, that could be, in many different things. That could be increased bombardment from just traditional ballistic missiles, like conventional ballistic missiles, conventional cruise and hypersonic missiles. It could be chemical attacks. It could be possibly nuclear. Okay, again, I don't like to go down that speculation rabbit hole, but we definitely need to keep these things in the back of our minds. Again, the swear jar, as it fills up, we'll have to issue those funds to a good cause. Apologies for that. Yeah, I get a little heated when I bring up the nuke topic. So moving on here, again, so they declared the high terrorist threat there in Crimea. All right, so that was at 10 hours ago. 10 hours ago, again, shelling targeting Kharkiv. In the east here, again, that's probably over the past 24 hours, we're probably up at a dozen aerial threat alerts. That's not including all clears, because they don't show all clears on here. So those, the citizens on the ground there are having to listen to double the sirens. They're having to listen to the ones that are telling them to go to the shelter, and then the one that tells them to come out of the shelter when it's safe. But for the most part, over the past few days, I would say argue even weeks, a lot of people in Kharkiv are usually staying in shelters the majority of the day. So, moving on here, again, the shelling targeting Kharkiv, there's been a lot of that over the past day. It's been just increasing exponentially here as those Russian forces move into the east there. 10 hours ago, a post here from the New York Times documented the bodies of almost 36 people where they were killed in Bucha, in their homes, in the woods, in a vacant parking lot, and learned the story behind many of their deaths. Again, they made a map here illustrating where those bodies were found in the town of Bucha there. Again, you can see with little explanations there for each of those killings, and not just killings there, communal graves, rape victims, entire families that have been killed there. Again, there's a lot and still much more that is coming to light here in Bucha, not just Bucha, but I would say dozens, if not hundreds of towns in and around Ukraine. Bucha is just one of hundreds of towns where this activity has occurred. So again, there's that map there of those victims. in Bucha with that report from the New York Times from 10 hours ago. Moving to the 9 hours ago mark here, Russian troops are attempting to assault Severodonetsk and have launched Tochka-U missile at Popasna. General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine made that statement earlier today. You can see those reports of those missile strikes in the eastern regions there. This is nothing new, and we have just seen an escalation of this over the past few days here, as the Russians look to, air quotes again, renew the offensive here in the east. I see some people speaking in the chat there about this map. Yeah, again, that map is a excellent illustration of the hell on earth nightmare which has unfolded. And again, I like to reiterate, not just in Bucha. Okay, you can't just think about Bucha here, because again, it's dozens and even hundreds of towns across Ukraine where this activity has happened. Okay. And unfortunately, I have to mention this just to stay as in the middle and as unbiased as possible. The Ukrainian forces, the Ukrainian officials, have even announced that they're looking into war crimes that have taken place on the Ukrainian side of things. Okay, there are war crimes happening on both sides of the spectrum here, on the Russian side of the spectrum and on the Ukrainian side of the spectrum as well. Are the Ukrainians shooting civilians dead in the street though? No, most certainly not. The Ukrainians are not shooting civilians dead in the streets. There are civilian casualties happening in the east of Ukraine from incoming Ukrainian artillery. We have seen some spotty evidence of that, but it is nothing, in no way outweighs the amount of civilian casualties which Russia has inflicted on Ukraine since this conflict has begun. That is without a doubt. Selena asks a very good question. Sorry, just a sidetrack here. She says, how far does this have to go before the rest of the world involves itself militarily? It's a very fine line we're walking. Again, I don't like to get into speculation. At the end of the show, we might get into a little bit of speculative territory when it comes to that sort of thing. Again, when we go to outline kind of the major options that Vladimir Putin has moving forward, I kind of want to go over kind of like what the possible outcomes are here, okay? What could happen moving forward, and then as I do my reports over the coming weeks, we're going to kind of resort to that guideline, that list of options, that list of outcomes and eventualities as kind of a guideline, to see where we are and where we're going, so to speak. If that makes any sense. I'll try to get into more depth of that a little bit later here. Okay. Really quickly, is my map? No, it's not. 1 second, let me make sure my map is good there. Okay. All right, so, again, 9 hours ago, the Pentagon, we will, within a statement saying, we will continue to provide military aid to Ukraine. Of course, they say this every 3 days. A statement from the Pentagon comes out just to reassure everybody that we're going to continue sending the aid. They do this in lieu of the fact that Zelensky has said that he needs more, he would like more, and that the Ukrainian forces need more lethal aid. Not just lethal aid, but defensive aid as well. That's all under the umbrella term of military aid. You have two categories there. Well, three, I would argue, three categories of military aid. You have actually, let's say 4 categories, sorry. You have direct lethal aid, okay, things like ammunition, missile systems, offensive weapon systems, etc. Tanks, airplanes, whatever it may be. You then have defensive systems, things like helmets, you have air defense systems, you have, armor-proof vests, all that sort of stuff. Then you have logistical supplies, things like medical, things like electronic warfare, all that sort of stuff. And then you also have informational support. The informational support that U.S. and its allies and the NATO and NATO partner countries have been providing to Ukraine has been imperative. Things like that electronic surveillance, reconnaissance, etc., intelligence. That's very important. One would argue that we are all already in the war now when it comes to a cyber and information perspective. Okay, we are all involved directly. The U.S., the Brits, the entirety of Europe. We are all directly involved in intelligence gathering and in the electronic warfare side of things. I would argue already at this time since day one. Another statement from the Pentagon 9 hours ago says, we will make about 10 trips to Ukraine a day to transport military aid. Now, I was speaking about these trips earlier today, and I want to reiterate that that Moscow has voiced over the past week here that they are, considering that, directly helping the Ukrainian military, and so it's very possible that we might now see them directly looking to strike some of these military aid shipments into the country, which, in all possibility, could mean a possible accidental or purposeful strike on NATO on NATO personnel or U.S. personnel that are operating along those Ukrainian borders where those arms are being shipped in. They could be struck with things like hypersonics, with ballistic missiles, with cruise missiles, etc. And so that's a very dicey situation when it comes to that personnel kind of possibly coming into harm's way there in the west of Ukraine, where those shipments are kind of coming over the border. 1 second here while I take a quick drink here, guys. B-Boys each, so thank you so much for following on Twitch there. It helps a lot. If you're following on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Best way to support the channel. Also, best way to get those notifications. 1 second here while I moisten my palate. Okay, so again, moving forward here from the 8-hour mark, France expels 6 suspected Russian spies in diplomatic roles. Again, this is not the first. This is not the first report we've seen like this. Yeah, I do actually have the Ukraine audio. Sorry, the desktop audio coming from all of our Ukraine audio feeds. If that, I'll turn that down a little bit while we're giving these reports. I'm sorry. I hope that wasn't causing myself to be not be able to be heard by any of you guys. Too Tall, as Too Tall says, got to keep those vocal cords moist. Yeah, when you're talking for 2 hours straight, they can get a little hoarse, to say the least. So again, reiterating there, this is not the first report that we've seen like this. France expelling those suspected Russian spies. We've seen multiple reports from a multitude of countries of this activity, including from the U.S., who has expelled a few Russians in the past year or so as well. So yeah, this is something that is ongoing and developing. As the Russians look to get a one-up in the information, in the intelligence game. All right, there are spies on the ground. They do have operatives on the ground in many different countries. That is without a doubt, and we are going to see more evidence of them being expelled from these countries over the coming weeks and months here, without a doubt. Send it Sam says, did you get my bits and message? I don't think I got your message, Send it Sam. Hold on, I'll check really quick. Yes, Send it Sam, if you want to just repeat your message in chat real quick, and I can answer that for you. I think it got buried in chat. Just pop your message into the chat real quick, and I'll answer that for you. So again, moving on here, 8 hours ago, a 3 days long curfew starting tomorrow morning will be imposed in Irpin, Kiev region, which is very, very interesting. It could be that they're looking to possibly thwart saboteurs. It could be that they're maybe looking to clean up ordnance. There's a multitude of reasons why this could be. Again, there's a video here. I'll get that up on screen for you. At least it said there was a video there. So this is a video from an official there, I believe.
Добрий вечір, шановна наша ірпінська громада. Тільки що вийшов з наради від губернатора. В нас з сьогоднішнього дня до 15.04 до 9.00, це п'ятниця, вводиться посилена комендантська година, в місто заїжджати не можна буде нікому.
I'll get us a translation for this really quick. From our translation channel, we actually have a bot that we've set up in our translation channel over on the Discord server, which allows us to very quickly translate Russian text for you guys. So I should be able to get a pretty accurate Russian translation for you here. One second. It says, "Dear community, important message from tomorrow morning from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock on Friday, April 15th. A curfew is imposed on the territory of Irpin. Entry into the city will be prohibited. Exceptions are law enforcement agencies, rescuers, utilities, and volunteers on a pre-agreed list. Travel to Bucha through Dmitrivka and Zabuchka. I ask you to treat this with understanding. Thank you." So I'm not exactly sure as to what the reasoning is. Some people are speculating that it could be saboteurs, possibly Russian sleeper cells are still in the area. That is very possible. I would argue even probable. Okay, so yeah, I mean, of course, the Russians have withdrawn from around Kiev for the majority, but it is possible that, again, there are sleeper cells and saboteurs, Russian saboteurs, still in that area. Send it, Sam. I saw your message. I will take a look at that appeal after the live stream is over this evening. I thank you so much for your support, and I'll definitely look at getting that taken care of. I'll ask the mods if they know anything about that. 8 hours ago, the Ukrainian Deputy Prime Minister says Russia prevented evacuations from the Donetsk region today. Again, this is not the first report we've seen on this sort of activity, as the Russians have not only interrupted evacuation corridors in the past month now, they've also interrupted humanitarian aid corridors multiple times. 8 hours ago, 8 killed, including a 13-year-old child, 19 wounded, including a 4-year-old and a 9-year-old child as a result of a Russian army shelling today in Kharkiv. Again, it comes as Kharkiv, I like to reiterate, is probably one of the most bombarded cities in all of, I would say, one of the most bombarded oblasts in all of Ukraine. This is another report from 8 hours ago. 4,354 people were evacuated today to safe areas. Again, that is down by Zaporizhia there. As they move people westbound over the Dnipro into the safer regions of Ukraine in its west. I like to say safer with a grain of salt because, again, all of Ukraine is still within striking range of ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, etc. at any time, as well as saboteurs, of course. 7 hours ago, the Azov regiment says Russian troops used kind of chemical dropped from a drone. Those impacted have respiratory failure, vestibulo-atic syndrome. Of course, we read that report to you guys earlier. It's very concerning seeing those reports of those possible chemical attacks. Now getting into our nightly air raid sirens. This is from 7 hours ago. Mykolaiv, Kiev. These are all for the oblasts as well, guys. Keep in mind, so not just the cities, but the surrounding regions as well. Mykolaiv, Kiev, Ivano-Frankivsk, Lviv, Ternopil, Polskavka, Vinistia. Quite a few there, all reporting air raid alert sirens this evening. 6 hours ago, 3 killed, 8 wounded today as a result of shelling in the Donetsk region of Ukraine. You can see a picture there of those blown out hospital windows there. In Donetsk, there were 3 people killed and 8 wounded in that strike. 6 hours ago, 3 wounded after exposure to chemical substance dropped from that drone in Mariupol. Again, in reference to that chemical attack, we're still waiting for 2 things. A, confirmation on the chemical attack itself, and B, confirmation on the numbers in which were affected by said chemical attack. Again, I hope towards the end of this report, again, 2 hours have passed, I might have some renewed information. I'll do a check quick before we're done with this report to see if there is any new information coming out out on those chemical reports. I doubt it. I think we'll probably have to wait until tomorrow to get some concrete information. It's about 6:08 a.m. here, Ukraine time. Again, we'll have the national anthem queued up for everybody at 7 a.m. Ukraine time for those that like to tune into that. I'm actually going to get that on an automated system moving forward for those that like to hear that national anthem in the morning. Oops, I accidentally moved myself there. Okay, so... oh, whoops. Lock it, don't make it disappear. Okay, so again, that chemical attack, it has happened in Mariupol. We don't have confirmation on the nature of the chemical attack, as to how many have been affected, as to who issued the chemical attack. We're still waiting on more information. That is our major breaking story this evening, was that chemical attack. It basically, I had three or four other main headline topics I was going to cover tonight. That chemical attack basically threw all of them under the rug, and it's definitely a game changer when it comes to the situation and the dynamic on the ground here in Ukraine. Marisa asks, are all cameras down in Kiev? In the city? Yes. In the city center, all cameras have been deemed illegal at this time, amongst a few other city centers in and around the Kiev Oblast. It's for the city centers. It's mainly for operational security. Now that the Russians have changed tactics, they're really worried about, the Ukrainian forces are really worried about sabotage, leftover Russian sleeper cells again within the area, possibly taking out attacks. So that's why they've removed those cameras. Now, there are cameras still up in and around Kiev Oblast in different parts of the region where those laws are not in effect. And so that's very important to realize. Chandler Coleman, actually, with a good question. Sorry if I didn't see this before. He says, I'm going to give it one last go before I pass out. I'm writing a report over the forceful deportation of Ukrainians into inland Russia. Wanted to get a take. Not totally sure as to why. Again, yeah, so there has been reports of evacuations into Russia. So from the beginning, there has been Ukrainians evacuating into Russia, from Ukraine. There's a lot of Ukrainians that are pro-Russian in the east. Okay, there are a lot of Ukrainians that are pro-Russian even in the north in some areas. And so since this whole thing has began, there has been a slew of evacuations taking place into Russia by Ukrainian civilians. Okay, now there also have been sporadic reports of what we have come to call forced evacuations. Those, again, it's still kind of hard to confirm that information. There has been reports on that, though. If you're asking about why, it would be for the information war. Okay, they can take footage of those evacuations from areas, from certain areas, and then say, hey, look at this footage. We evacuated these people. We saved them. And we got them out of there. That's basically what you're seeing with that whole situation. Okay, so moving on with our everlasting update bombardment here from Live UA Map. Again, we had that report with the chemical attack 4 hours ago. Foreign Secretary Liz Truss reports that Russian forces may have used chemical agents in an attack on the people of Mariupol. We are working urgently with partners to verify the details. I actually covered this at the top of the hour when I first came on the air. Any use of such weapons would, of course, be a callous escalation in this conflict, and we will hold Putin and his government to account. At the 4-hour mark going backward, we had another round of air raid Sirens here. 4 hours ago to Dnipro, Poltsavska, and Kirivi. Again, these are all take cover Sirens. 3 hours ago, the Pentagon made a report saying, we are aware of social media reports which claim Russian forces deployed a potential chemical munition in Mariupol. We cannot confirm this at this time. We will continue to monitor. Per the Pentagon press secretary says these reports, if true, are deeply concerning again and will be a game changer in the dynamic here in Ukraine. 3 hours ago, air raid alert on Kiev, Mykolaiv, Kiev Oblast again, and Kharkiv. So that wraps up those updates from Live UA Map. I'll go ahead and refresh here And it actually looks like those reports have been removed now from the live UA map. Those might have been all clears, or they just have late at night. Sometimes live UA map does get a little bit lagged behind with its reports, so it's possible we'll see those pop up in the next few hours here. Chandler Coleman, thank you so much for tuning in this evening. Again, so we just took the past about hour here and went through all of our live UA map updates and all of the kind of the developments over the past 24 about 24 hours here or so. I'm now kind of going to kind of shift over into wrapping things up here with you guys. We're going to switch over to the chat. If you guys have any questions, comments, or anything you guys want to share, now is the time to do so. I'm also going to kind of look into the map here, and I'll kind of talk a little bit really quickly about the about those those Russian troop movements there. Andy says, Nemico Network, thank you for the show and for everything you do. Thank you so much for tuning in, Andy. Again, this is our first report tonight of our new reporting schedule, which is going to, again, be running every night from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to have a 1 to 2 hour block of straight reporting the whole time. It might even get a little bit longer than that some nights, as we've gone a little bit over the 2 hour mark this evening so far. I'll be going for a little bit further here as we have a few more things to cover. We'll have open panel discussions coming up at you guys soon in the coming weeks. I haven't organized another one yet, but we will have another one for you guys available, as well as further video content coming down the pipeline as well. Marcia says, I missed watching your reports. Thank you. Thank you, Marcia. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. The reports will get better, of course, as the weeks go on here moving forward. Now that we're on a concrete, solid schedule, I can try to put a little bit more work and effort into aggregating the reporting and kind of trying some new things. Each night we're going to try a couple different things. In fact, as you can see, I have all these other maps and stuff up, flight radar, ADS-B, the firm's map, the naval radar, the air pollution, etc. And I'll start kind of going through those more. Tonight we kind of had kind of a catch-up night, okay? Between that and the chemical attack reporting, that's really taken the cake tonight as for the reporting. So again, the reports coming this week will have more in-depth on some of the individual aspects of what's going on. We'll talk about things like the radiation situation up around Chernobyl. I wanted to cover that tonight, but we ran out of time for that. I will be covering that in the days ahead, though. We'll go in depth on kind of the situation with the radioactive material, the nuclear plants, kind of the supply chain issues that are ongoing, etc. Tiger Eye, thank you so much for tuning in. Genuine Gowan, thank you so much for tuning in this evening. Damien33DC says, is chemical attack the same thing as Agent Orange or some other substance? At this time, we're unsure as to what they used. It's most likely not Agent Orange. Agent Orange was used in Vietnam as a it's a defallinator. So basically, it kills trees and bushes and all plant life. It was meant to clear the jungles so that they could see the ground for airstrikes and for air support. This chemical that they used, initial reports, it's speculated that it's maybe a crowd dispersal agent of some kind, something like tear gas that was used. However, if it was dropped from a drone, that leads me to believe that it's probably something else. Again, we've had reports that there are breathing issues, like what's the respiratory distress that is being reported here. And so again, we're gonna have to wait for more concrete information on that to come out. And again, I'll have that information for you guys tomorrow in my nightly report. So, but just really quickly, just so everybody is in the know, we're not just doing the nightly report. Throughout the day, I sporadically hop on for anywhere from like a 20, 30-minute period, sometimes even a couple hours. I hop on for what I'm calling, air quotes, micro reports, and just kind of hang out with you guys. And again, I'm on call when anything comes in, when any major reporting comes in. If I'm not sleeping, I'm immediately on here reporting it to you guys. So if you pay attention to not only the YouTube and community posts, but also the announcements channel on the Discord, Discord. That's the best place to find when I'm going live for those micro reports. Blue Fat Crab says, I'm eating Italian 4 cheese while watching the stream. Well, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I hope your dinner is delicious. Miss Christie says, the fish eye eater says, please use a fish avatar next time. Maybe. We'll see. Bella4830 says, thank you. You're very informative, better than the news. Well, thank you so much, Bella, for tuning in. Again, as the reports, as the weeks go on, I hope to, every time I have a report, I like to improve things. We'll go over to our newsroom here really quick, actually, now that we're done with some of those reports there. I was gonna go into some of these forced troop movements really quick. I'll touch on that. Of course, we've seen them moving out of Kiev, right? That's been the main topic. They're now shuffling them to the east. I'm going to go into more depth on this, I think, with tomorrow's report. We'll kind of probably take probably about a 30-minute chunk of time to go into kind of the individual movements of these Russian soldiers and kind of the strategy they're going to take. But to really quickly kind of put it in a nutshell, as they reshuffle these supplies around in the east, they're basically looking to enact a pincer movement here. We've talked about this before. I thought originally they were going to enact this kind of as an offshoot from the Kiev, kind of the Kiev advancement here down to Odessa. But we are going to definitely see that here in the east. As they kind of look to cut off that pocket of Ukrainian forces here, we're going to see them kind of enact kind of a pincer movement here to kind of cut off those forces from retreating westbound. I'm going to go into full detail on that tomorrow, as we've kind of run out of time for that this evening. So make sure to tune in for that tomorrow. Raindrop says, happy you are back. I'm happy you are back, Raindrop. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, it's really nice to see so many familiar faces and new faces tuning into the stream this evening. It's been great. It's been a good time tonight. Annette, thank you for tuning in. Says, thank you, Nemico, for the reporting. Again, I'll be here almost all day, every day, for those sporadic reports. I hop in, every other hour or so, to kind of communicate with you guys and bring you some reporting. But as for, if you guys want to know when the reports are officially on the stream, 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That 2-hour block is when we're going to be giving reports every night, with the exception of a few nights on the weekends. I'll announce that stuff, though. I'll announce not only every day when we're going live, but if we're not having a report one day, I'll make sure to announce it to you guys ahead of time. Tiger Eye says, any reports on the sarin attack in Mariupol, or is that what we were talking about? Yes, that's what we were just talking about. We don't know if it's sarin or not yet. Too Tall, thank you so much for tuning in this evening. Glad to have you on, and thank you again for your moderating support over there. Bible says probably sarin gas was a test run for a bigger op later. Yeah, again, I don't think we have any concrete information that it was sarin yet. We're still waiting to get the concrete information that it was sarin gas. Yeah, in fact, I'm checking now. U.S. has not confirmed the use of the chemical weapons, but has previously warned Ukrainians of the possibility. Of course, we're still going to have to wait and see. We're still waiting for the concrete evidence on that chemical weapons, that possible chemical weapons attack. I see some people in the chat, saying sarin, but we haven't got anything confirmed on the sarin gas yet. Dead by Daylight, thank you so much for following on Twitch. It's awesome to see you supporting the channel, see you tuning in on Twitch. You guys are awesome over there on Twitch. Pocket Frog says, Nemico Network, put a frog in your pocket, please. I will do that. I'll do that for you, Pocket Frog. KR says, welcome back, dig the hair. Yeah, it all fell out when we started, when the war started, so... Tiger Eye says, my second question is, can you address the T word? The T word is in our past now. Bill C with a good point says the Russians can't sustain their current loss rate. Yeah, see, I mean, again, I think those loss rates will shift. I think now that this renewed offensive is occurring in the east, it's possible, now that the dynamic is different, now that the terrain is different there, that we might see a lowering of that loss rate. However, only time will tell. Again, we were surprised at how badly they performed in the north by Kiev, so we'll only see. Grimspeed FPV, thank you for tuning back in. He says, sure hope it wasn't dug up ground from Chernobyl. Yeah, again, the Chernobyl stuff, I'll probably go into a in-depth analysis on that for tomorrow's report. As I ran out of time for that tonight, and I think we're going to need about a good hour to go through all of the nuclear plant reporting there, as for not just Chernobyl, but Zaporizhia and the other plants in the country that are still at risk. Patty Wax says, thank you for doing a fantastic job. You are my go-to. Thank you, mods. My bedtime. Good night. Well, good night to you, Patty Wack. Thank you for tuning back in. Glad to have you on the show this evening. It was awesome having you on. Rocketman says, update the avatar, please. I actually just updated it, so maybe. Of course, I would like to try a new one each evening. We might do that. We might try messing around with that. Ty Thalich says, I have a question. If they do find out that they use chemical weapons, would this allow NATO to come in or act? It's very hard to tell. See, it's very dangerous to assume that NATO is just going to immediately act because of a chemical weapon strike. There might be retaliation or some form of reaction from NATO. We're going to have to wait to see. We still don't have concrete information on if it is in fact a chemical attack or what chemical was used. Not Pocky says, Russian apologists are saying napalm is no different than anything they're dropping. It's more misinformation trying to justify chemical usage of civilians. Yeah, we have seen some of this activity. Yeah, I mean, I would argue that chemical usage is by far very different from napalm. Big P987 says, do you got a job? Yes, I actually do have another side gig that I work, but I'm actually looking at, trying to get full-time into the content creation thing moving forward. And giving the reporting for you guys, because it seems like a lot of people are appreciating the reporting. They like some of the content we've been producing, and I have a lot better content coming down the pipeline, especially when it comes to like the video content that I'll be putting out. Not just news stuff, but a whole bunch of different stuff. My channel isn't just one topic. I have a whole bunch of different things that I'm working on in the pipeline that are coming along the pipeline here. Rocket Man, thank you so much. It says the newsroom is cool. Yeah, we got actually a few different newsrooms. We actually have our breaking newsroom here as well, which has a little bit bigger of a screen there for us. Yeah, the smoke. I'll disable that the smoke next time. I forgot to do that. Actually, I can do that here. Yeah, disable the smoke there. Go back to our main newsroom here. Yeah, the desk actually was probably the most expensive addition. It's acrylic. It's a pretty nice desk, though, It shows our chat on it and has the news ticker, so that's nice. Marisa says, lift your chair. Yeah, possibly. We could work at doing that. Matt says, I know you said it still takes up screen space, but I think you need hair. Your head is blue, man. It's not blue. It's gray. Is it blue? Does it look blue to some of you? It could be maybe it could be the smoke maybe causing a color shift. I'll disable that smoke there real quick. Christopher Ryan says, Nemico, thanks so much for being realistic and unbiased with your reporting. A lot of people are overly optimistic, but not you. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, I try to do that as much as I possibly can. I try to do a few things. I try to stay A, unbiased, B, realistic as much as I possibly can, and I try to stay neutral as much as I possibly can. I've said this before. We're pretending to be kind of an outside observer, like an alien looking down from its spaceship, as a third party watching this situation unfold in Ukraine. Jack Manhouse says, I took a smoke break and now we have a virtual news studio going on. I like it. Well, thank you so much for the kind words, guys. To all of you guys, thank you so much for kind words. HM Producer says, Dasha needs to be on the mug. I actually was going to put the Nemico logo on the mug, but I could put the Dasha logo on the mug. That is not a bad idea. I think we actually have a Dasha mug, if I'm not mistaken, on the store. So that could be a funny little merch plug there. Yeah, I'll put the Dasha on the mug. I'll do that when I get a chance before next stream. I'll have to make a list of all the things people are asking me to do, because I'm probably going to forget half of this stuff before the next stream. Again, guys, thank you to everybody that's tuning in for tonight's report. This was our first report back after our break on our new reporting schedule. We're going to be doing a 1 to 2 hour report every night. I was just kind of taking a few minutes. So we're actually 18 minutes past when this report was supposed to end. I was just kind of talking to some of you guys in the chats. Lori, thank you for tuning in. Rocketman, thank you for tuning in. HM Producer, Pocket Frog, all you guys, thank you for tuning in, man. It means a lot. Jenny McGowan, Fancy Hat, thank you for doing everything you've been doing tonight, man. Mimi, Zal, all you guys, man. Every single one of you guys. In fact, I'm so far back in the chat right now. I'm like 5 minutes back in the chat right now. Crude Jude, thank you for subscribing. Welcome aboard. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight to the chat. Again, if anybody here wants to help support the channel, the best way to do that is to hit that subscribe button, share the stream. Again, there are links on the side of the stream where you can help support Ukraine directly through UNICEF. That's built right into the YouTube stream now. We also have a QR code directly on screen that directs you right to directly to UNICEF, where you guys can help support Ukraine over there. There's links in the description where you can help support Ukraine through a multitude of different sources. We also have our merch that we are selling right now to generate money for Ukraine as well. You can find links to that in the description below. All those proceeds are going to the Amnesty International Ukraine Crisis Fund. And as well as that, there's links down there for all of our sources. If you guys want to find any of the sources for maps and stuff that I use, I have most of them listed down there. I'll be updating that description here soon. Also, if you guys would like to find some of the intel that we are sharing with you guys, if you guys would like to join in the community discussions, the best place to do that is over on the Discord server. The link to that is discord.gg/Nemico. You can actually find a link to that in the description below the live stream. At this time, it's actually 6:30 a.m. Somebody just asked, "Will we get an anthem on the way out?" Hell yeah! I'll get that anthem going. Well, maybe we'll play it from 6:30 to 7, or maybe I'll just play it at 7, or play it after I'm done here. Whichever. I'll definitely play that for you guys though. Again, guys, I see all of your questions coming in on the stream here. Again, every single one of you is amazing. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Yeah, Throw reminds me to put the javelin on the desk and then Dasha on the mug. That's what I'll do. Yeah, I'll make a list for that for the newsroom improvements for tomorrow's stream. Chandler Coleman, really quickly, he says, I know this might be old news. Just came back to say, apparently the chem attack was a bombing of a nitric acid storage. Yeah, that was an old attack. This is a new one on Mariupol. This is different. The nitric acid was a chemical storage container that had gotten struck during a shelling. KR says, can you explain the departure of St. Javelin? Actually, no, we still have St. Javelin on the screen. It's in the Situation Room, just not in the newsroom right now. In fact, if we switch back over there to the newsroom real quick, you'll be able to see it. Right there on the middle of the screen there, there's our St. Javelin. And when I go to leave here, I'll get all these cameras updated and replaced as well. So don't worry about that, guys. I'll get that done as well. Let's head back over to our newsroom really quick here. I see all of your chats. I can't answer every single one of your guys' chats. I'm trying to answer as many of them as I possibly can. Again, guys, to everybody that is tuning in tonight, every single one of you guys are awesome. Everybody, to all of you over on the Discord that are doing things like tracking live flight radars, tracking marine movements, exchanging intel reports, intercepting radio communications, all of those things, to all of you guys are the reason that this is possible, okay? And I thank every single one of you guys. HM Producer asked, posting this live by chance? Yes, all of All of this report, including what I'm talking about now, is all going to be uploaded to the YouTube channel afterwards for those of you that would like to tune into the report after it is done. If you've missed it or something like that, it will be uploaded to the YouTube channel. Sam says, please make a father-in-law graphic to go with Saint Javelin. Actually, we have a saint-in-law. There's already a saint-in-law, not a father-in-law. But, oh, father-in-law. That would be a good one. I get it now. I get it. But, tis. That's a good one. Google user says, I was hoping we would hear from Latrick Lancaster. Oh, no, he says, I was hoping the bear would eat Patrick Lancaster. Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, we actually haven't heard from Patrick Lancaster. He's had quite a few videos over the past week. We might cover some of those on some of the micro reports tomorrow. I might go in and watch some of those videos, and we'll talk about some of that. He also has a few other people that have been reporting with him lately that I'll probably touch on as well. Will we get the anthem? Yes, we'll get the anthem. Don't worry, we will have the anthem at 7 a.m. Yeah, again, we got a few different additions to the news reports that we're going to be making over the next few weeks here. Of course, like the avatar, the newsrooms, all that stuff. Sam Ellis says, if you were truly unbiased, you would also play the Russian national anthem. I actually did early on. When the war first started, I did play both anthems. And I did it in respect for the Russian soldiers that were dying on the battlefield. They're humans as well, and they're being sent home in body bags to their families. And, so I felt the need early on. However, we ended up taking a vote on it, and the majority consensus is that it was respectful enough to have it was respectful to just have the Ukrainian anthem up on screen when we did our streams. So that's why we just played that national anthem during the mornings. Barbara Singh, isn't Patrick Lancaster biased? Yes, most certainly. Most certainly he is. So again, to everybody that tuned in for tonight's report, this was your nightly report for April 11th of 2022. Again, this was our first report in our new reporting schedule. We'll be coming at you guys every night from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with reports on the situation in Ukraine amongst other news reporting from the region. And over the course of the day, we do micro reports on the stream as well. We pop in at random for anywhere from a few minutes to an hour, sometimes a few hours at a time, where we give you guys reports on, kind of micro reports, and I kind of interact with the chat and kind of talk to you guys in the live chats and stuff. So, and sometimes we go into some in-depth analysis and some speculation during those micro reports as well. If you want to tune in for those, the best way to know when I'm on the air for those is to keep an eye on the announcements channel over on the Discord server. You can find a link to the Discord server in the description below. That's discord.gg/Nemico. It's the best place to interact with the community. It's the best place to share in on the knowledge and the intel. If you guys want to get news on Ukraine the fastest, the best place to do that is in our Discord. If you want news an hour, sometimes minutes or hours before the mainstream media, our Discord is where you can get those latest developments. If I'm not on the air reporting, you sure as hell bet that somebody is in our Discord reporting on it at that moment in real time. So best place to do that. Again, if you guys are watching and following along on YouTube, make sure to hit the subscribe button. It's the best way to support the channel, best way to get notifications when the streams go live. Also, if I could get everybody to hit that like button really quick, it's a huge support to the channel. This stream is up 24 hours a day, 24/7, as a cam stream. When I'm done reporting here, I'll make sure that the cameras are updated over the next few hours here before I go to sleep, and then in the morning I'll be updating them as well. So those will stay current for you guys. Also, if you're following along on Twitch, thank you guys so much for tuning in over there. Make sure to hit that follow button if you haven't already. Again, it's the best way to know when the streams go live. To all of you guys that tuned in for tonight's report, thank you so much. And until next time, stand by, and thank you for tuning in.